We're doing
Hey everybody,
family.
welcome back to the One's Ready podcast. That's right. I just went in there just, because not giving you guys a heads up at all because that's what I do.
It's very on brand.
Yeah.
Very on brand.
So, we're going to cover something for the folks out there. We're going to cover something that we covered, I think it was about 2 years ago, maybe.
Yeah, it was a long time ago.
Yeah, it was a while ago. Plus, it was only really only Trent and Brian that were on there. So we want to give a little bit more perspective. Plus, it's been 2 years and kind of perspectives change and stuff like that. So what we're going to talk about is families and what it's like doing this job with a family, and maybe some perspective on what the families go through and how they feel throughout the job. So I would never pretend to think on what my wife believes goes on during this. Like,
careful.
It's probably inaccurate, but yeah, I think it'll be good. So I honestly, I don't even know where to start in terms of asking you guys questions, but because I'm going to interview you guys. That's the way this works.
You're going to keep yourself out of the doghouse.
I got. No, this is a good idea. No,
throw all the danger our way.
The intro makes a lot more sense now. Now that Peaches is like, no, I'm running this one. Yeah. No questions this way, guys. I'm the one just running this open panel. I mean, we'll start with the elephant in the room, right? Like, special operations career field have high rates of divorce. They have high rates of folks not making it. But to be honest with you, it's really comparable to like the larger American culture as it is right now. Like, you are coin flip plus. So I want to say divorce rates in America are more than 50% now, right? Like, you're probably not going to make it in your relationship if you were to just look at the data anyway. So when you add on things like the amount of TDYs we go on, the stressors, the trauma that we've talked about for years here on the podcast, of course, it's going to be tough, right? So we want to talk about, some tips and tricks, really share some of our stories that we may have, and hopefully you can help that.
Can we call them life hacks?
We can call them life hacks if we had a time machine to go back to 2021 when that was cool. But anyway, but I want to caution everybody. Like, people come to us and they're like, oh, you need to help me figure out how to make this relationship work. Can you give me some secret, some Trent life hack in order to make this relationship work? Like, bros, we, all three of us, are juggling flaming chainsaws every single day, like every other adult human. There's entire swaths of people that focus specifically on the psychology and psychiatry and the soft science of keeping people together and having strong relationships. So when y'all DM us and you're like, well, what should I do about my family? Give us these complex problems. We'll try our best, but we almost never give advice on that.
No, we're experts. We know exactly what we're talking about.
Yes, because
don't undersell us, Aaron.
Right. We send each other those messages on our group chat during the day where we're just like, I don't think I handled this situation correctly. I think I could have done better here. Or, I'm in the doghouse today because I said this stupid thing. Like, surprise, everybody. We're just humans. Nobody has this figured out. Nobody. Nope. You meet every once in a while, you meet a couple. First of all, it makes you mad because you're like, look how happy these idiots are. I hate these two. Like, ugh.
Happy people are the worst.
They are the worst.
They're like guard people.
That's kind of guard. But that's real though, because tying it right back into comparing during the pipeline and seeing these people that have, that are physical specimens, and you're like, dude, there's no way compared to them that I'm going to make it. And oh my God, they just quit. Like, I have no chance. Like, it's the same kind of thing. You see it on Instagram or social media or something like that. You are only seeing a snapshot and probably somebody that took, 100 different pictures or several different videos, and they're like, ooh, or maybe they take one long video and they edit it out only so you see the best parts. All those folks that are so happy and you think everything's perfect, it is not perfect. They are either putting up a facade or they are able to compartmentalize and put that, okay, I'm not going to allow my bad day or my fight with my spouse impact everybody else. So.
Yeah. Also, they might have gone through years and years and years of testing, their relationship before they ended up where they're at, where they're 90% good to go all the time. So
Yeah.
it's like looking at a rich person being like, oh, life must be so easy for them. Like, why can't they give me some of that? It's like, well, also they went bankrupt like 6 times before they got there.
I feel like there's a rap quote in there: "Mo money, mo problems." Go for it, Aaron.
That's where you went. Mo money, mo problems.
Now I feel super relevant throwing things out from 2021.
You really did. Yeah, you're way. I'll tell you what, that was a 1998 joint that we just had to deal with from P. Diddy and the fam.
90s are making a comeback right now. I'm in for it.
They really are. Dude. Yeah. Trent, that's great. The quote that I was thinking of is unfortunately not a rap quote, but it's like, people look at it at an overnight success that was 10 years in the making, like there's so much work that went into that. So I think the way, Peaches, you're in charge of this one as always. But I think the way that this would help out is, we'll just kind of go chronologically and we'll go in the order that people ask us questions, and we'll try to give you some tips and tricks and, some other stuff. But, one of the first questions we get on family is, and this is a tough one because I never know how to respond. Hey, my significant other isn't like bought in. I've been trying to like get him to understand that being a PJ or being SR or being TAC-P, like this is where I want to go, but they're not on board. How should I have that conversation with them? I'm always like, bro, I don't know. You know what I can tell you? I can tell you they have to be 100% all in, or your life is going to be absolute just hell. Like you guys are not going to be able to get through it in any real way, or it's going to cause you so much strife and trauma that, it's really going to affect your chances of making it. It's already statistically impossible. We talk about it all the time. You have a 90% failure rate for going through, most of these career fields, right? It's going to be even harder if your spouse isn't bought in and if you guys don't attack it as a team. So the first question that we kind of get is, well, how do I convince my significant other that this thing is for us? And I never know how to answer it. I always just am like, I don't know, be open and honest, I guess.
That's
there's layers to it.
Go-to.
And it's like saying Met TC. I don't know. It's going to be really tough. You got to communicate.
Well, like there's the married people that we get questions from. There's the people that are like, just in, dating relationships. There's people asking about how to get their parents on board. So like there's different levels of family. Obviously, if you're just dating, you don't have kids, like just get rid of that person because they're garbage. So,
I am actually on board with you. I'm not saying, I wouldn't say that they're garbage, but like
that's because you're a good human.
Yeah. But at the same time, like hey, you're just dating. Like, hey, this is something I want to do. Not allow somebody who you are just dating to dictate the rest of your life of something, whatever dream you have.
But Peaches, we grew up together. We've been dating for a long time, since high school. She only cheated on me 3 or 4 times. And now she doesn't want me to go pursue my goals. Like, Jesus. Why can't?
We were at tech school together. We were basic together. And I swear it'll work. And I know in the comments, there are going to be people and said, hey, I've been together. Hey, awesome. Congrats. Like, stoked for you. But at the same time, you also have to acknowledge how rare that actually is.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that is so rare. That whether it's a high school sweetheart or whether it's somebody you were in basic with or tech school, because the chances are that is not going to work.
Yeah, you're right. So, just to clean up one of the stats I threw out there, so 35 to 50% of marriages in the United States currently end in divorce. Second marriages end at a higher rate, around 60%. The Air Force has the highest divorce rate in the United States military. I just found that out here. So
practice does make perfect. If you go through it once, the second time is easier.
The second time is actually worse. So you don't know how statistics work.
Yeah. No, like it's easier to get a divorce. You're like, I've done that before.
Right. Yeah.
Well, that's actually a good point. That might be how it is, where you're just like, second one, you're like, I've already been through this. I already know.
I already know how this is going.
Where the first one is like, man, this
can't take 50% of nothing.
Yeah.
Wow. I like it. And for everybody out there, just a quick reminder, fiscally speaking, it's cheaper to keep it than it is to start over. So I will put that out there. I meant the relationship. I don't know why you're giving me such a the face right there. Like, they always say that therapy is cheaper than a divorce. So go talk to somebody about it. How about that?
Yeah. But like, seriously, like for the people that it is hard when they're like, hey, I'm married and my spouse is not on board, because I can see it from both sides, right? Like, I'm like, hey, like, you got this thing that maybe you're going to be super resentful if you don't even get the chance to do it. But like from the spouse's side, I could be like, yeah, I don't want my spouse to go off and do those things. Like that sounds crazy and dangerous. I'm not going to see you for 3 years plus however long you're on team after that. And then, you have to play like Semper Gumby. Like there's no standard day. There's no, like everything is constantly changing. And like, if they understand that, they've done the research, it'd be really hard to get on board with that for personal reasons. Like obviously you want to support your spouse and be like, hey, if you have these dreams, do it. But like, if you have a job that's making more money than you're going to make as an airman basic entering the Air Force already, I'm assuming if you're married and stuff, and then so like, there's just a lot of logistical issues that you have to work through, and so I think that's why it's so hard to give like one piece of advice that would solve that problem, other than over communicate and be hyper honest with each other, and just be like, hey, like no kidding, I am going to resent you for the rest of my life if you don't let me do this. Maybe not in those terms, but like, I don't know how you explain that you have the itch, the drive, the whatever, the mission in your life to go do this. And like, if they're not on board, it's, I don't know how you talk them into that.
Yeah. And that's, I've actually had, a couple people that listen to us, like ask if their spouse can call, if I can no kidding talk to them on phone. So I think I've done that 4 or 5 times now, and they just, it's weird.
I'm like, man, you and I have very different interactions on the social media. I'm not getting a whole lot of those requests.
I already know you and I have very different interactions.
Social media is different for Peaches, man. Nobody's like, hey, Aaron,
I'm like, hey, what's going on? What's up, everybody?
Can I get some mentorship? Can I get a phone call?
Aaron's all like, I'm surprised you're still alive because no one's offed you yet.
Yeah, really, it's like I woke up this morning sad to see that you hadn't killed yourself. But anyway, maybe my day will get better. Have a good day, Aaron.
Oh, you're still breathing, huh?
Oh, you're still breathing. Boy, that sucks. Anyway, thanks for the podcast, dickhead.
But I mean, what I really should do is keep in mind or write down all those questions so that we can address them during things like these. But it's tough for them because you're right, Trent. Like you're signing up for, hey, I'm going to go through some mental anguish, some very dark times where I'm just getting crushed every single day for, the better part of 2.5 years. Now, it doesn't mean that we're not going to see each other for 2.5 years. That's not the way that works, because you're going to see each other many times throughout that time. And then at certain points, actually start to live with together. But you better believe that those mental struggle, like, I mean, imagine going through, and Aaron, you probably dealt with this. You have because you went through NDOC and you were already married. I won't say her name just for her own privacy, but
appreciate that.
Her name is Candy.
No, absolutely not. That's worse. That's worse. You leave Cinnamon out of this, guys.
So, I'm sure that there were times where you had disagreements with Cinnamon and like going through NDOC when you are on the struggle bus during a 4-hour pool session or during Hell Week.
I had a newborn. I went into the pipeline, my daughter. So no kidding. I got married early-ish in my Air Force career. So I think I'd been in the Air Force for like 3 years at that point. Met somebody, had a long-term relationship. Everything was good. I was a cross trainee, as everybody knows, but nobody cares. So I was in that other job. And to be honest with you, like being a PJ, like cross training back in wasn't really on my mind, right? Like it was something that was in the back of my head, but it wasn't like when I left the pipeline, it was just every single day was like, okay, I'm going back. I'm training. It wasn't like I was really settled in my other job. I was already a 7 level. I was a team leader for the stuff I was doing. I was doing cool stuff. I say it all the time, being a phys tech, my life in that job, I was like, okay, yeah, tight. Like this is good. This is, I'm of service and I'm doing well and all those other things. So I had my daughter. We had our, my daughter, like, fast forward, we got married, immediately got pregnant because, I'm very male, very virile, as we found out. I have a 43-year history of being, very fertile. So we get pregnant. We figure out that, whatever. Well, then I had the opportunity to go to jump school. So I go to jump school. My daughter was like 3 weeks old. Like no joke. Like she'd been out of the hospital a week and a half. something ridiculous. Like I distinctly remember leaving for Georgia because I drove down. The only way that my unit would let me go down is if I drove because it was cheaper than flying. So I was like, done, I'll take the 10-hour drive. So leaving at like 2 a.m, my spouse at the time, my wife at the time, was feeding my newborn daughter. And I'm just like, okay, well, see you later. So, I mean, that's how, that started. So I go down to jump school, and I was lucky enough. One of the PJs that worked at Moody was a good friend of mine that I went through the pipeline with, my short stint at the pipeline the first time. And he was like, hey, come over and play cards. And, at the end of the night, we're having drinks and whatever. He worked at Moody, so I drove over from betting, and, we're having drinks, and I stayed at his house. And, kind of as the night was like winding down, he looks at me, he's like, hey, you idiot. Like this is what being on team feels like with all these PJs that came over and, had cards and gave each other shit. And, it was really good. You should stop screwing around. You should get back in. So I, no kidding, went home from jump school. When I got to the apartment where we were living, my spouse looks at me and goes, it made you want to go back, didn't it? Jumping out of planes and being with Rob. And I was like, honestly, yeah. And that started the process of us figuring out how we were going to, tackle the pipeline. And luckily for me, she was fully on board. She was totally on board with me going and doing it, to the point where she was like, listen, you can go try and do this thing, but when you leave, I'm changing the locks. And unless you come back with a graduation certificate, you're not getting into the house. And she was, just 100%, supportive, and we made that decision together. But it is, you mentioned it earlier, Peaches, where it's not like you're going to be gone for 2.5 years. No, it is like you're going to be gone for 2.5 years, because for the first time, probably in that relationship, you're putting another relationship first. You're putting the team first. You're putting the pipeline first. You're putting the military first for everything. People will tell you, oh, it's 50-50. The relationship in the Air Force. That's not true. It's 51%, 49% in favor of the Air Force and in favor of this job all the time. And that's as close as it'll ever be.
It does ebb and flow, though. Like
it does ebb and flow, yeah.
There are times where it is freaking 80-90% the job. Like for maybe a couple days, couple weeks, months, right? Mm-hmm. And then it's come back and it's 80% freaking the family. So like it does ebb and flow. It is not consistent.
You'll get those stretches where you can really focus on, or you can, especially, taking a leave and taking a knee here and there and just being like, hey, I'm turning my phone off. I'm not answering emails. For this period, I'm going to be out. Y'all need to figure out what you're going to do, but don't call me. Don't text me, because I'm out, but that was kind of my experience of, showing up to INDOC with, my daughter at that age was 4 months old, 5 months old or something by the time that I got through there. So that it was pretty rowdy. Like when I graduated INDOC, my daughter was 6 months old, and then we were off to the pipeline after that.
Jeez, man.
But as far as like an investment in your future and into yourself and into your family, like from your perspective, how much did actually making it through the pipeline change you and help you become, did it help you become a better father, husband, any of those other things, despite the amount of time it took out of your relationship?
I would like to say yes, but because I am who I am, there's a huge part of me that wants to be like, no, it ruined it. No, there was, huge parts of, looking back on it now, it's easy. My daughter, just graduated high school, right? So, and obviously I don't, cohabitate with my daughter anymore. Like they live in a different city than I do. And I won't put that city out here because you people are weird, and God forbid I have to deal with that. But, looking back on all the things that I missed, all the firsts of everything, like I don't think I saw my daughter do a first anything, like a first first day of school, first steps, first words, these things I was on the road for. Like I was gone. I was out training. So you want to say that you learn from those things. And, we have a great relationship now, and, we text back and forth every single day. I was literally, texting her just before we got on here, but it is so hard to maintain those relationships as the kids grow up. So you want to say that you learn from it, right? Like, oh, well, I learned how to be a better communicator, and I learned how to be a little bit more open and honest. Well, I did, but it was through failure after failure after failure after failure in the pipeline. Like, and that just is what it is. And that's the dirty secret of this is, even if you have best possible scenario, somebody that is in your corner 100%, and you are communicating perfectly and open and honest, it's still not going to be easy. It's still going to be the hardest thing that you've ever done. Like we kind of said in the beginning, like maintaining an adult relationship is hard enough just for normal people. And now we're asking you to do these completely abnormal things. Like the things that we would ask you to do are completely abnormal. And one of those things really is, putting your relationship aside, for the Air Force, for the job, for TDY, and for a number of different things. So.
Yep.
Man, I can't imagine doing what you did. I mean, obviously you did, and it's doable, and you're not the only one that has done that. Like, there's been lots of people. But as somebody who hasn't gone through it, I'm sitting here going like, man. I mean, because I've missed a ton of firsts as well. I mean, shit, I almost didn't even meet my daughter, or even have my son. Right? I deployed. My wife was pregnant, and during that deployment, that was a very kinetic deployment. Lots of fighting, very active, and I was blown up 3 different times, like my vehicle. And I ended up. It's funny because I was out in the field, like even after getting blown up, I remained out in the field, and then they had given me, there was a Purple Heart waiting for me back, wherever, Kandahar, and news had gotten out because of all the sit reps and stuff like that. And one of the other spouses happened to like meet up with my wife and mention like, oh yeah, we heard about this, glad to hear he's doing well. And I hadn't talked to her yet. Like this, you guys got to think like this is before FaceTime. Skype was a thing, but I'm out in the field, so all I have is an Iridium phone, that massive brick, and we're busy doing stuff. Like we are out on patrol, engaging. So it's not like I picked up the phone and freaking, what am I going to say? I mean, I am in that. For anybody, and you guys know this, but for the folks out there, like when you are deployed and you are actively doing things, like it's a weird kind of switch, and you don't think that you're in it, but you're in it.
Yeah, you need to be in. It's a self-protection mechanism. You need to be 100% dialed into what you're doing. You cannot. It sounds harsh, and this is why relationships are hard. I did the same thing. I could not be distracted by what was going on back home. And my spouse at the time, to her credit, she would say the same thing. Like I would call her every week. It was not every day. It was not texting 24 hours a day. I would call her, every couple of days, and we would talk about stuff. And, when one of the things that we talked about, and she would say the same thing to me, I'd be like, listen, I can't get into this emotional conversation that we're about to have right now, because I can't be there. I got to be here. I can't be addressing these things back here. And she would do the same thing. Sometimes I would want to broach into, a more personal or more relationship conversation. She'd be like, listen, I'm knee deep in toddler poop, and people, the kids are sick, and there are these things going on back here. I don't have time to focus on this for you. Yeah. Like it makes it really hard.
So it's a weird switch that goes on in a focus thing. And anyway, so it's not like I picked up the phone and called her and told her like, hey, guess what? I was just blown up 3 times. Cause really, what good does that do?
Right.
So wait a minute, you did that. You still have, 3 months left on this deployment, and you're still out in the field. Okay. Yeah. Let me do that. Anyway. So she found out from that. So lesson learned, if something like that happens, you 100% call as soon as you possibly can, just to say, I'm okay. That is something that I learned.
Well, and I think it's hard sometimes because you don't want to burden somebody else with your stress as well. Like things that are going on, and you understand, like you're in the context of it, you're living it. But like, when you say those words, I got blown up 3 times, and in your mind, you're like, yeah, I mean, it sucked, but I'm fine. Mm-hmm. Like what it's going to sound like to them is going to like wreck their world. And so you're like, yeah, I'm just out here with the boys, or like, I'll let you know when I know. And even in the pipeline, I think I've seen people do this where like all they do is talk about the positives, like they'll call their spouse, and all their spouse hears is that like you're hanging out with your boys and having a great time. And like, but like, cause you don't want to burden them with like, dude, I got the whole team smoked today. I almost quit. Sergeant Segmiller is super mad. He was really mad.
Well, and it's tough too. It's like, I'm doubting myself. I don't know if I want to do this anymore. Like you have that shame, or I don't know what word would be better than shame, but you have the weight of, convincing that spouse to go along with you. So of course you don't want to call back and go, hey, I know that I like badgered you into this decision and you changed your life too. Like I had those problems when I was at NDOC. I had bad days and I'm like, oh my God, I got a newborn baby and a wife that is at home trying to figure out a kid all on her own. She's essentially a single mother and I can't tell her I had a bad day.
Mm-hmm. You had a bad day. Well, let me tell you about my day.
Buckle up, Turbo.
The water heater started leaking. The AC's out. And of course, it always happens like the day you leave on a TDY.
100%.
It never fails. I mean, even like my wife left less than a year ago for just to go on a vacation, right? And the day after she left, we had a storm in here in Las Vegas with lightning, which is super weird. And our tree in the backyard got struck and caught fire. Like what?
Why?
Yeah. Like
why?
That doesn't happen. You know what I mean? So and no matter what, anytime I leave, something. It could be small, it could be large.
My favorite story about this is we're walking out. We went to Vegas. We were doing an element leader upgrade. We're walking out to the helicopters, and my mentor, good dude, CA, kind of walking behind me, and he slaps the back of my helmet as he would like he would do that all the time. He was like an old school PJ. If you did something wrong, he would just slap the back of your helmet. So like you'd be doing something, and you just be like, "Bing!" Like what happened? It was CA smacking you, but he smacks me. He's like, "Hey, call your wife, idiot." He's like, you got a little bit of time before you get on this helicopter. I was like, oh, okay, cool. Yeah. Well, lo and behold, his wife and my wife were very good friends. His wife was like the key spouse before my wife took it over. So I call and here we are in Vegas. We went out the night before. We had a great dinner. Everything was cool. Vegas was fun. I'm having a good time just jobbing out. So apparently everyone in the house got like a flu. And it was so bad that everybody had diarrhea. Everybody was vomiting. So 2 young children in this house in England while I'm in Las Vegas. And I'm just kind of like doing my thing. And she was just in the trenches. I was like, are you guys okay? Should I come home? She's like, no, you shouldn't come home because I'm going to effing murder you. Yeah. She's like, she's like, we've been locked in the back. We had an upstairs room and it was a bathroom, but it was an English bathroom. So it was one of like the corner showers. It was super small, right?
It was 2 by 2.
It is so small. She was like, listen, I had to bring them into the bathroom to me so that I could puke and have explosive diarrhea. We've been in this bathroom for 4 hours because we can't go anywhere. And I was just like, oh my God. Like I sent her selfies of like me and the friends the night before, like, oh, check it out. All you can eat sushi. And I failed. And that was another story of how I really screwed it up.
That's
like,
actually what
this
is.
Food poisoning from that sushi.
It was worse than that. That was not. They talk about reintegration, right? Because that was a long trip. I think we were in Vegas for almost like a month and a half or something. Because when we, at that time, and Peaches knows because he was there at that time in the 321st, you would, fly across and you would stack training back to back to back because it was actually cheaper to be there for longer as opposed to the plane flights and whatever getting back to America. So I was gone for like 40 days and they talk about reintegration. Let me just say, she was not at the unit with a sign that said welcome home. She was not happy to see me. We had to have a couple of conversations. They did not go well for me. And then I was on kid duty for a couple days. It was daddy time for the young boy and the young girl. So, but that's it's ebbs and flows, like you said, Peaches. That stuff is going to happen, and unless you were super, aware of it, like you got to put yourself in their position. It doesn't work to just you do your thing and I'll do my thing. The deployment stuff is hard. It's got to be even harder this time, at this time with the connectivity that you have and the way that news spreads. And, we've all seen, Peaches, you kind of talked about it, for word of mouth sort of stuff, but, they will literally black out everybody's social media. They'll be like, do not post on social media. Don't get on your phone, like trying to control the information because it spreads so quickly. And that can be a good thing.
Flip the switch on the Wi-Fi.
Mm-hmm. Like, that can be a good thing. Base. What do they call that?
Blackout comms.
Yeah. But there's a word for it. I want to say, isn't it named after a city? It's not. I'll think of it. There's a. It's like river. It's not Riverside, but it's.
Shout out Riverside.
Riverside, California. No, there was a specific term that they use, and I'd heard it a couple times before. I'll Google it or figure it out. But yeah, it's a good thing for connectivity because you can just FaceTime, your spouse. You can FaceTime your significant other now. You can really keep that connectivity going. But to Peach's point, sometimes you need to be dialed in. You need to be completely present. So, yeah.
I think what really helps is when both sides try to give advice to the other on how to solve the problems from whatever they're going through. It always works out. It's just do this,
It's so easy. I can't believe you didn't figure this out.
Or questioning the decisions of your spouse always works out well. Like, well, how come you just didn't take the kids to the hospital? Or how come you didn't do this or do that or whatever? Those are the things that really, really make it easy.
If you don't have any self-awareness, if you're trying to fix problems from a distance, that's gonna work out poorly, just from experience.
No, Jared? No, nothing.
Nope, I got nothing on that. Nope, not touching it.
Well, I know we get a lot of questions about like when can my family move with us, in the pipeline, and how often am I going to see them, and all these specific questions. And I think it's difficult sometimes for me to be like you're not going to have time. So like people will be like, oh, I heard there's rumor that Pope is going to turn into a PCS, right, for the combat controller and SR guys, or especially combat controllers. It's like, hey, can I move my family from San Antonio to Pope and then move again to Hurlburt? And it's like, hey, like some of these questions are like, you got to figure out if it's better to have your family with you or better to just like, hey, stay in San Antonio and then we'll all go to Florida together and minimize the number of times you're moving. And also like understand that while you're at Pope, like you think your wife just wants you to, or husband or whatever, wants you to come home every day and just like be covered in mud and be like, I got 6 hours to clean all my stuff that I just dragged into your house, off base, to clean it all, to catch a couple hours of sleep. I'm going to wake up early, pack it all up, back up. I'm going to leave a mess, and I got to go back to training. Like,
yeah. It's not like, hey, I'm going to be home at dinner at this time.
Right.
No. Like, who knows? Maybe somebody, didn't tape their bottles correctly. Yeah, that's right. I said it again. Tape your bottles correctly. Mark your gear. Yeah. But I mean, like, you never know. Oh yeah.
Well, and then
the cadre saw us doing that, and now we got smoke for the next 2 hours. That's why I missed dinner.
Well,
and PCSing is super stressful too.
Yeah.
Super stressful.
During that time, you're building these relationships with the team. So then even in your off time, you got all these knuckleheads hanging around the house. Like my house in Kirtland was ridiculous. Like there was a bunch of good stories. Like so our team was terrible. I've told this story a million times. Our team was awful, right? So we got locked down to base. We were wearing BDUs. Like if you left your house, you had to be in BDUs unless you were going to the gym. Like we got in so much trouble, right? But what that meant was like it was Halloween. I was not allowed to take my kids off base to go trick-or-treating, and I had to walk around in BDUs. Like that was the game that we had to, and people, my spouse at the time was like, are you effing joking? You're a grown-up. You're like the NCOIC of the team, or you're, she was like, you're a grown man with children. I want to be able to take my kids to go trick-or-treat. And I'm like, nah, I can't. I'll get in trouble. Like I'll get smoked. They'll make me do push-ups over it. And it was I know kidding had to ask him like, hey, can I get approved to go off base to go grocery shopping so that my wife doesn't have to drag the 2 kids to go do it? And no kid, I won't say who it is, but there was a PJ that looked at me and no kidding with a straight face was like, well, you can go to commissary.
Yep.
I'm telling you, like it was. And man, of course, there were awesome stories, right? We used to have a poker game that ended up being like 40 cones would show up over to our house. Our house became, no kidding, I woke up in the morning, one morning, I walk out in the living room and there is a PJ that is still a PJ to this day. His name's Michael. I love him. He's amazing. He's sitting there like munching on a bagel with my daughter. They're watching cartoons. And like my daughter is telling him about the cartoon and he was totally into it. He was like, oh yeah, that's tight. And he's just munching on this bagel. And my wife at the time was like, how many dudes slept over here last night? And I was like, I think 6. I was like, but they got the kids up. Everybody everybody's good. They're hanging out with the kids.
Everybody pitched in. It's all good.
Right. Yeah. So, I mean, of course there were those good times. Or, one time my wife we were locked down to base. My wife made Thanksgiving dinner for an entire team of dudes. Like, I think we had 25 people just show up and she made magic out of lunch meat because she's amazing like that. But so of course there's going to be those good things, but you were living that life. your life is not your own. Like everybody's going to be involved in your relationship, good, bad, or indifferent for that time.
Yeah. Well, and if your spouse is like a scheduler or an organized person, like nothing is ever going to go to plan.
Nope.
Like I'm supposed to go to jump school on these dates. Is it going to happen? Maybe. Same with SEER, free fall, dive, whatever. And then it's like we're supposed to start this course on this time and graduate this time. Like we're supposed to have these days off. Like none of that is ever going to happen. And guess what? Like when you get on team, it only gets worse. Like remember, I've talked about it before. Every time coming off a team and people being like, we have federal holidays that you don't have to come into the office. It's like, oh yeah, there's like days of the month and week that matter to people. Like on team, there's none of that. Like
days do not exist. You're so right. Like, what day is it? It doesn't matter. And then you get on team and you're like, wait a second, we get the 19th of June off. Like we had a 4-day. I listen, guys, I don't want to highlight how long it takes us to produce an episode after we actually record it, because apparently that's a thing. But newsflash, we don't put them out right away because we have lives and we do this as a secondary function. However, we have a 4-day this weekend. It's amazing. You don't get 4 days in the pipeline. that ain't a thing, baby.
No. I mean,
on team,
a lot of times, even on team, like actually, like once you get to a unit on team, sometimes there's like you're talking about we had a 4-day, tracking. We had a 4-day. Guess where I was yesterday? Working.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's not a woe is me kind of thing, but it's just like, hey, when you're taking care of the mission, you're taking care of people. You're making sure you're prepped and ready to go, because like going back to, I know we joke about the, hey, tape and mark your gear appropriately and line things up, but that's in preparation for once you get to different points on team. And now is making sure that I am prepped and ready to go and setting myself up for success on Tuesday when I go back to work. Or that doesn't mean that I'm not going to answer some emails this weekend too, or some text messages about questions. It just happens.
I don't know how many times in my life it's been, Sunday afternoon, and you're kind of figuring your day out, and I'm looking at somebody and going, okay, well, hey, I got to go into the office just for a couple hours, or I just got this one thing to be ready for work tomorrow. Yeah. Like even on normal weekends, you're doing stuff the day before. You're like, I need this piece of gear, or we're training, or it's an early show, so I got to go in and make sure everything's ready. So just a couple hours, and then you spend 5 hours of your Sunday at the unit prepping gear or getting stuff ready or whatever else.
You got to stop that though. Like, I mean, it is reality. It is, but you got to minimize that, or you bring the kids in. Like if you got kids, bring them in. They love being around. They love being in the hangars and running around the cages and all that kind of stuff anyway. But
you know what else you need to do on Sunday nights? You need to make sure you're hydrated.
You guys are on it. I'm so proud of you both.
You got to hydrate.
You got to hydrate, baby. But
what do you hydrate with?
Is water enough? I mean, water is the king, but is it enough?
It's nice.
It's not enough. I mean, if I had to guess, just throwing it out there, I would probably just make up this website in my head and go to drinkhoist.com. There's something called Hoist. And I'd also use the promo code One's Ready, because it's going to have great flavor. It's going to help hydrate me. Did you guys know it was originally designed to help hangovers? Like that's
no way. Is that a real thing? Yep. I'll tell you what, from experience, it works, baby.
It's because that like a baby drink doesn't taste very good.
It doesn't. Yeah. Like whatever
let's find something better.
Baby Light or whatever it is, and then Crocodile Aid. I don't want to drink something named after a lizard. That sucks. I want to drink Hoist. You guys know I'm a powder guy, but it's just because I love having those packets in a pocket, in a bag. I made a joke, a couple podcasts ago that anywhere I go, it's like Fight Club. You can just reach into a pocket of, different bags and just be like, oh, here's a Hoist. Cause I always just throw them in, whatever bag it is I have on the road. So man, I love it. Fruit punch. It's my flavor, mixes perfectly into water. It's good. And I've said this before, but it's one of the only drinks. It's not sugary at all. Like I can actually drink it while I work out. Usually water is the only thing I can drink because the other stuff is just too sugary and I just don't like it. Man, Hoist is fire intra workout, like as you're working out. So
what kind of workouts do you do? If you were
stop it. No, I'm not doing it. Nope, not taking it. Not today, baby.
Yes.
Nope. Absolutely not.
I heard you're doing some kind of kettlebells for some kind of fighting technique cult thing that you do from 18 Alpha Fitness.
don't drag Kevin into this one. So Edge has a program on 18 Alpha Fitness. You can use the code OneReady over there, right? In addition to everything else he does, right? Prior strength and conditioning coach, he was in the pipeline. He basically has made a program for whatever selection you want to do. Army, Navy, Air Force, Marines, SOF, first responder, whatever. He'll get you there. Specifically for me, I'm doing the kettlebell for BJJ. I'm not going to mention jiu-jitsu, Trent, not today.
You just did.
It's the name of the program. I can't help it. The point is the app is integrated with everything. It actually, like, he has you taking pictures every couple of weeks. He has you tracking your progress. He tracks your body fat. He engages with you. I accidentally, so sometimes I'll do the workouts, right? But I don't like do them point by point on the app. Like, you can actually go in each set, each rep, put your weight in as you're doing it. I filled it in at the end. I accidentally marked. There's a self a feedback tool where you can actually put like how hard was this part of the workout, and it goes all the way up to like super hard or I wasn't able to finish. So it was a plank series, which has been super tough. I mean, just absolutely destroys my core when I get done with it, right? But I accidentally marked like it was not hard at all. Kevin messaged me right away. He was like, "You must have the world's strongest core to say that didn't." And I was like, "Holy crap!" Like, but that's the level of feedback. He's monitoring every single workout that I do, and he's looking at the feedback that I'm giving him and going, "Oh man, that's crazy. You got through that in a great amount of time," or "Good job on that PR." But that's what Kevin will do over at 18 Alpha Fitness. So go check him out.
He's the China of workouts programs. Is that what you're saying? He's monitoring everything you do.
He's a former Green Beret. How do you compare him to China? No, go follow him at 18 Alpha Fitness. At the NSA. Go follow the 18alphafitness.com. Use the code OneReady. That's the number 1 and the word ready. You'll get a discount on the programs. But seriously, anything that you want to do, if you just want to be better and more healthy, go check out one of his programs and he will build it from the ground up for you, and then he'll guide you all the way through it. So yeah, Coach Edge, amazing, great program. Really do feel better. Trent saw me. I'm looking a little bit veiny, I'm looking a little bit lean. I'm just saying.
Yeah, that makes
I'm
one
not
of
going
us.
to say that
I'm
on
the
this
fattest
forum.
I've ever been right now.
Get out of here. You look great. I refuse to listen to you self-talk yourself.
That doesn't change these pythons, but whatever.
Oh, brother.
Oh, yeah, brother. Yeah. You got 3 minutes of playtime.
Macho Man Randy Savage, check in.
He's the best. He's the best ever. He's the best. Hulk Hogan could suck it. It's Randy Macho Man Savage
all day. Oh man. So I think we should end it on like a positive note, right? Like, we've talked about.
I got one more negative I want to talk about.
Okay, negative. Okay.
Anecdotally, so like we've all seen this where there will be people in the pipeline and they'll be like, "Hey, my wife or spouse says if I don't quit and go back home, they're going to leave me." Have you guys ever seen that relationship survive if that person actually quits and goes home?
No.
Mm-mm.
No, because it's already, I mean,
that's
I don't want to say,
and
yeah, that is a very, that probably started off toxic as it is, or there was already the seed planted as it is.
Yeah. I just want to throw it out there because I've never even heard of someone that knew of someone that quit for their significant other and then they stayed together. It's just
right.
Just want to throw it out there that statistically, anecdotally, whatever, 0% chance that relationship is going to survive if you actually cave and go home, and then you're gonna be resentful. They're already pissed about whatever they're pissed about, and it's probably not going to fix anything.
Ultimatums generally don't work.
They don't.
Right?
And I'll tell you what, like that you feel righteous, right? Like that's the siren song of this decision. Like you're in the pipeline and it sucks every day. And I've seen people do it. This isn't, just for interpersonal relationships or with your spouse or whatever. I've seen people go, okay, well, I need to quit and go home. And, my dad is having a health issue. So I'm going to quit this pipeline. I'm going to go home and take care of, this health issue, or I'm going to quit because, I'm having issues with my mom and, she needs me to be with her, or, I'm having issues with my spouse. So I'm going to quit. I've never seen it work out where it's supposed to be. I've only heard it, Trent, the same as you, where it's, I shouldn't have done this. This was a mistake. If I would have stayed in, I would have been able to provide a better life than I would be now. Like as I quit and as I find, my life is worse now. The relationship is worse now, if the relationship is even there. So yeah, you're totally right. I've never seen it the other way.
Actually, you kind of reminded me, Trent, something that I wanted to touch on this, because we have gotten these messages too, is for the, 16, 17, 18-year-old that is that their parents, they want to come and do this, but their parents are not supportive of it, whether, you know, and that's tough. And I don't know if this would be, I guess this would be a twofold message. One to the person, you know, the young person trying to come and do it. And then also a separate message to the parents. But the message to the young person would be, don't allow somebody else, especially when you're single, to dictate what you're going to go do. Like, get after it. If you want to go do it, go do it. I'd be willing to bet, granted, I haven't been in your position, but I'd be willing to bet that once you're in, like, yeah, you'll get some snide remarks or something like that, or maybe, you know, your mom or dad feel like you chose something else over them, but they will get over it, right? But the one thing that you will never do, or that you will continue to do later on, is resent them, and like, you don't want that. And to the parents, allow your son or daughter to follow their dreams. Like, you are not going to be able to hold on to them forever. You have got their peacock. You got to let them fly. You've got like, you can, you know, and I love, because Dan Holloway says this all the time, so I'll give him credit, but like, it's something that I truly believe in, is you have got, and I'm sure Dan probably took it from somebody else, but like, you have to prepare the child for the road, not prepare the road for the child, right? Yep. And allow your son or daughter to go out there and get wrecked by the pipeline. And probably, I mean, statistically, probably not make it, but allow them to at least try, because they've got to grow up. They have to. You are not going to be there forever. You have to let them succeed, fail, succeed, and so on. It's just, and I'm saying that from somebody who has got, you know, a teenager who doesn't have much longer, you know, in the house.
My daughter's a college freshman. That is a super weird thing to say, because now I'm just like, boy, I sure hope I didn't screw you up via trauma and via me not being there for the last 18 years of your life. Anyway, have a good life. You're an adult now. Like, get out of here. It's a wild thing.
I just have a recurring nightmare that my son is going to come home and be like, I want to be a Navy SEAL. I'm just like, no, anything with that.
It's all of a sudden raining in San Antonio, and Trent's just screaming at the sky, just outside.
Little Shawshank Redemption out there.
Yeah.
Just, no.
Why? No. Anything but that, son. But I can't talk to him about it, because then I'll just like put the idea in his head, and I'll inception him, and then he'll end up over at Dam Neck someday, and I'll just be like, yeah, I'm proud of you, but geez, this is awful.
But that's a good point, though. Like, it's almost like a reverse psychology from the parents thing. Oh, no, don't do that. I don't, you know, it's dangerous. You're going to be jumping out of planes, and it's dangerous. And, you know,
you might have to kill somebody, and you're going to constantly be on the road and shoot cool guns and meet cool dudes.
Yeah. You're going to be part of a brother and sisterhood that is just like, I mean, that team dynamic it's not tangible. And we've talked about it before, I know, but man, that bond that you have, even for, and I'll throw it out there, even for people that you dislike, you're like, dude, or disagree with, or just like, I mean, they're like, even on the teams, there are dudes that just, for whatever reason, do not get along, you know, whether they've slighted each other or you pointed at yourself. That's fine. I didn't.
Yeah, you did it yourself, Aaron. I didn't do it this time.
But I tell you what, you put those two dudes or group of people into a situation where it is life or death, or they need to save each other, they will do it all day long, and they will still pick that person that they can't stand over somebody else.
Yep. Well,
it's a weird thing, and I don't even know if I described it right, but it's weird.
And have your parents ever experienced this? And I think a lot of this is, and I don't want to get too deep into fathers failing their children, but man, like, if you crush your own dreams before you even start when you're younger, And then you convince yourself over the next 40 years or whatever that you made the right decision because you're safe and secure or whatever. And you convince yourself of that. And then you have a wild child and they're like, I'm going to go join the military and do all these crazy things. Like they're scared, and also they're probably like a little ashamed that they didn't do all this stuff. And fear is a very real thing. And I can't pretend to not understand that, because as a father, like if my kids came to me, like I would have concerns if they wanted to do this job. But like your parents are just humans, and they have all this baggage that they're dragging along as well. And at the end of the day, they're probably just trying to protect you from whatever they perceive as a threat to you or your psychology or your life. But it doesn't make them right. And I'm not saying that, y'all are bad parents or anything. I'm not trying to like get comments about like how I'm telling you how to parent, but I am a little bit. So don't drop your baggage on your kids. And you have to be honest with yourself. And if you're incapable of being honest with yourself at a certain point, like, as a kid, you're 18, you can do what you want, and don't deny that calling or that itch that you have to go do something more and be more.
I'll tell you what, there's going to be some moms or dads out there that are just like, Trent.
Yeah.
Oh,
Trenton.
My kid just gave me the finger, said they're 18 and they went and joined the military. It's like, sorry.
You hit him with the D-Generation X, like, yeah, suck it.
Yeah, I mean, it's probably the same, fathers that are still talking about the one touchdown pass they threw. It's like, and then they went and got a comfortable job doing whatever. And that's fine. That's great, because this job is not for everybody. And like I said, statistically, most people are not going to make it. I mean, like I remember doing that. I did a voice thing on the Discord, and I was like, hey, most of you guys that are listening and talking to me right now aren't going to make it. And they were just,
oh no.
And it was kind of like, reality check. And it's not me trying to be an asshole. It's just like, that's the math. So be the exception. Don't be the person that doesn't make it.
Hell yeah.
And the success rate of people that go through on the second try is much higher.
Oh yeah.
So like there's a lesson there as well. Like, yeah, you're not going to make it the first time probably, but are you the person that comes back around? Or are you the person that's just like, well, that's it. I'm going to stop chasing my dreams because they told me I wasn't good enough once, or I got hurt, or I quit, or whatever. Like, it's going to be embarrassing if I have to go back there. Yeah. Welcome to life.
Damn. Boy, we got really, spicy.
Really went high, right? I'll tell you what, coming out of the ad reads, we were just like, all right, time to burn it to the ground, baby. If you're still here, here's some nuggets of wisdom, and it might hurt a little bit. They're all spiky and pointy and stuff.
Well, you were like, let's end on a positive note, and we're like, hold on just a second.
You know what? You suck.
Yeah. Hey, great idea, Aaron. Do me a favor and shut up. Idiot. Well, it's a good place to end. It feels good. We talked about, why, when we talk about family and relationships in the pipeline, it's hard. Like you have to, of course we want to, nuggets of wisdom that really aren't, right? Like just be a good dude and put out, be open and honest, and, be transparent with your spouse. Like it takes work. And you got to be there from day one, working with each other. It's hard enough as it is to maintain an adult relationship. It's even harder on the pipeline. So we're always here to try to help, whether this helped or not. At least we gave you some more tools in your toolbox. But it might've been a hammer. No big deal. Just make all your problems look like nails. That's it.
All right. Well, don't forget to like, subscribe, check out the store, onesready.com. You can get yourself some Attack Elite gear, fins, all that kind of good stuff for your training or prep. And then, you want to support, get, both you guys got flags in the back from the site. And I've got a flag in here somewhere from the site, and there's shirts and all that kind of good stuff. So, and when you do go on there and leave reviews, like, it's okay to make it funny, wow. It can be funny.
It can be a funny review.
Like it can be short jokes. I'll take short jokes all day long.
I like it.
So,
is this the first time I haven't made a short joke the entire podcast?
I think so.
I saved you. I was the glove save. I got it for you.
Thank you.
I mean, we can talk about how that was actually me out in Vegas, standing on a 6-foot ladder. To be a 10-foot alien.
To be a 10-foot alien?
Yeah.
That's nice. That's three. That's 3 peaches as a unit of measure.
That's right.
You're 3 peaches tall. How big were the aliens? I think they were about 4 peaches tall. Oh, so they were 12 feet? Jesus.
Wow. Those are still kind of small.
Nice.
All right, fellas. Everybody out there, thanks for watching. Later.
Later.
Bye.